Hey guys, welcome back to Bibliophile Reads. I'm Courtney, and today you're joining me for my March wrap-up. I read 14 books this month. I don't know how that happened. I kind of say that every month because I don't do a set TBR. I really am mood reading, and my goal this year was to slow down and really read purposefully things that I really like to read, even if I don't get this like high number. And what I'm finding is that even with that, my flow gets me around 11 to 15 books per month. And so that's perfectly fine. I'm good with that. This month I was celebrating March Mystery Madness. And so I had a few mysteries on my original plan. I didn't get to all of them, but I did get a couple in. But I think I had a good mix of books this month and was really focusing on trying to get more literary fiction in, as well as romance. I had a anticipated read that came out, which is expiration dates. I'll talk about that, but let's go ahead and get started. So the first book that I read was Gone with the Witch. This is a mystery book. It's part of a series, and it is part of the Which Way Librarian mystery series. This is by Angela Sanders. I ended up giving this book 3 stars, and don't mind me if I'm looking around. I got my Kindle Fire that has notes and my iPad that has notes. So I like this series a lot. I love the fact that the main character is this librarian that has these witchy characteristics. She can use magic through books to solve mysteries. And so I've read all of the other books in the series. This is book 5. And so in this book, the main character is trying to find out this mystery of these dead bones that have come from the ground. One of the town women think it's her husband who went away. Anyway, it's a long story for it not to be really a mystery. And so that's why I only got 3 stars for me. It's hard to explain these books because I don't want to give it away. I think it's worth the read. However, it was my least favorite in the actual series. Next, I read The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I gave this book 5 stars. I picked this book up because I was kind of feeling in a rut really early in the month. I also kind of feel like I'm running out of books, which I know sounds so silly, but I usually read romance, and so I've been branching out, and I've said this many times, but branching out to find different things to read. Anyway, I had The Counselors on my bookshelf. It was a book that I got from the cafe last summer at Barnes & Noble. You know, sometimes if you buy a drink at at the Starbucks inside Barnes & Noble, you get a book for $5. So this was the book, and it was so good. So this book is, I think it's just a standalone, but it's one of the best ones that I've read in so long. But this book follows Goldie, who is a camp counselor, and she has been for many years, and her friends are all camp counselors, and they're in their late teens, early 20s, and they're trying to figure out like what to do with their life moving forward. Like some are graduating school, some are trying to figure out like what the next steps are. So it's that coming of age aspect. But Goldie is kind of stuck in a sense at the camp because she has a secret that she's been keeping, and this secret has stopped her from progressing in her life. And so it becomes this sort of now and then type story where we're seeing like what's happening in the present and why Goldie is the way she is and what she went through. It was so good. I really enjoyed it. And I didn't expect to have any feelings about it one way or the other. Like I said, I picked it up randomly and it ended up being awesome. So 5 stars. Again, that's The Counselors by Jessica Goodman. I did try to look for other books by Jessica Goodman and didn't find any that I wanted to necessarily dive into, but I really liked her style of writing for this book and highly recommend. Then I read Yoga Pant Nation by Lori Gelman. This is the Class Mom book 3. Last month I read book 2, and this Class Mom series is basically like a literary fiction, so like women's chick lit in a way around a mom who's just like navigating life. And in this book, this was my favorite in the series, as I'll talk about later. I did read the last one in the series, but this is my favorite because it is it's like the main character, Jin, has a lot of sarcasm, and in the first book it was a little bit too much and off-putting, but in this book I totally understood where she was coming from. Anyway, Jin and her husband own some yoga studios, and so we're learning about that. We're watching her 2 older daughters try to navigate life, and then she's trying to help take care of her 2-year-old granddaughter, and then one of the daughters, the dad of the granddaughter, their in-laws come into town and there's like this big fiasco. So it's not like anything in particular is happening. It's just like everything is happening. It's just like a regular woman's life. She's juggling a lot. She's dealing with getting older, thinking about menopause, thinking about how to be a good wife, a good friend, a good mom, how to be a mom to older kids. And so I really liked this series. That was my favorite one out of the series. And I gave that one 4 stars. Next up, I read Flip for Murder by Maddie Day. And this was probably the worst book that I read in a very, very long time. I originally gave this 2 stars and I went back and made it 1 star because I honestly didn't like it, and I don't want to recommend it. I don't want to pretend like it was good. So this book, let me see, I tried to block it out, but this book follows a woman, and let's see what's happening. It's the first in the series, the Freshly Baked series, and she is doing something. I don't know. I didn't like it. I can't even remember. What I will say is that there were very subversive elements in this book, which is why I gave it 1 star. This book was, it looks like I'm the only person who gave it 1 star on Goodreads, but this book spoke in a very right way, political way, that I just don't think is necessary in a mystery book. So I did not enjoy it and I don't recommend it. So I don't remember even what it's about really, but it's a country store mystery #1 by Maddie Day. Do not recommend. Next, I read The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is book 2 in the Folk Air series. I read Cruel Prince a while ago towards the end of last year, and I really do like it. I just am reading it slowly, and it's a YA fantasy, so when I take a break and jump back in, I'm not like feeling completely out of sorts. It's not super high fantasy, but it's also not very elementary. It's just right in the middle. But this book continues with Jude and Carden, and if you read the first book, you know that she has a deal with Carden, the prince, and she continues through that. But there's a power struggle constantly happening. There's some relationship feelings blooming and happening as well. And so I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I really, really liked it. I'm currently reading Queen of Nothing. I just started, but I'm excited to get that book going. The next book I read was a highly anticipated release this month, and it was Happily Never After by Lynn Painter. I got this book from Book of the Month and love Book of the Month. However, I just saw the paperback at Half Price Books, and why does the paperback feel so good? Because it's like a 200-page book, like 260 pages, and their paperback is just elite. So do I need the paperback? Comment down below if you think I do. So I gave this book 5 stars. I loved this romance. So this romance is not like one that I had seen before. This romance follows our main character, Sophie, who we open up to her getting married, and she is at the altar, and the pastor or priest says, you know, if anybody objects, speak now or forever hold your peace, and somebody objects. And then we cut to her celebrating, right? And so she has hired somebody, an objector, and his job is to go to different weddings and be the objector. And so he'll get information from the person who's hired him, like maybe the spouse was cheating or the spouse was whatever. And they will out that secret at the wedding as they object. And so she needed that for her relationship because her guy was cheating on her. But she is intrigued by his side gig profession. So he asks her to come in as an objectress for a job, and then she ends up loving it and wanting to do it. And so she keeps that as her side gig. But they decide to start fake dating, so it's mutually beneficial for both of them. And so Sophie works at the same job that her ex-fiance is at, and so she wants to move up in her job, but she's in HR, and so people think she's not over her ex, and so they don't want to move her up because it would seem very biased because she definitely doesn't like him, and so they do this fake dating thing. Anyway, it was so good. I loved the idea of the objector at weddings and them coming together, and it is a romance, so obviously they end up together, but it wasn't like an immediate, it was like build up to a relationship, some character building. It was very good, so I highly recommend that. And Lynn Painter is one of my favorite authors now. I can just say she's auto-buy for me. I'm always going to pick it up. Definitely love it. Next up, I picked up a Babysitters Club book because I was in a rut. And if you don't know, I am reading every Babysitters Club book from the beginning. and I'm on book 34. I only read one Babysitters Club book this month, and it was Marianne and Too Many Boys. I gave it 3 stars, which is like the lowest that I will give a book for Babysitters Club, because I am rereading it, but it just didn't hit for me. It was not that many boys at all, and it was like another trip to Seaside Heights. It was just like a remake of Boy Crazy Stacy. Stacy still lost her mind as soon as she got to Sea City. She was leaving Marianne with the Pike kids again. Like, I honestly thought she was trying to make a joke or like trying to call back to last time, and like, but it wasn't joking. She's actually just a horrible friend whenever boys are involved. And Marianne, yeah, it wasn't the best. 3 stars. Moving on to book 35. Then I read the last book in the Class Mom series, Smells Like Tween Spirit. And again, this is more of Jen, our main character, navigating life. And I'm giving this one 3 stars. In this book, her son is in 6th or 7th grade now. He's the youngest. 7th grade, because they go like every 2 years. And it's just weird. Like, he's a wrestler, so she's like a wrestler mom, hence the class mom aspect. She's still trying to get the business off the ground, and her daughters are trying to like create their own business inside her business. One off-putting thing about this book in particular was how the adult children talked to the mom and how they treated her. It just seemed like it's not something that I wanted to read. I don't think the disrespect was necessary, because the mom in this book is like so supportive and willing to do whatever, and she never just like checked the adult kids to be like, it's enough, like, I'm helping you with your business, I'm helping you raise your kid, like, enough. They never did that, so I gave it 3 stars, but I still recommend the series. Next up, I read a book that's quickly becoming my new favorite book that I will recommend, and it was my second 5-star in March. It was called We Are Not Like Them by Christine Pride and Joe Piazza. Now, I heard of Joe Piazza on the Stuck in Stony Brook podcast. I talk about them all the time. They do a Babysitters Club podcast, and they just kind of like pick apart the story, but I love it because there's different perspectives. There is a psychologist, there are a teen psychologist, a writer, and a feminist scholar, right? And so they all have their perspectives. They all kind of take their corners with the topic of the book, and it's absolutely phenomenal. But in the last episode, they had Joe Piazza on. She was actually talking about her newest book, The Sicilian Inheritance. However, they were talking about We Are Not Like Them, and I'm so glad I caught it. So We Are Not Like Them is a very amazing story. It's written, Christine Pride is a Black author and Joe Piazza is a white author, but the book is written as 2 friends, a white friend and a Black friend. They've been lifelong friends, and the white woman's husband is a police officer who's involved in a police shooting of an unarmed Black teenager. The Black friend is a media journalist, and she's covering the story, and so their friendship is tested. Riley is the news anchor, and Jen is the wife of the police officer. So their friendship is tested as they are navigating this very real situation, right? Like, this is something that's really happening all too often within our society, but they're also kind of like checking in with themselves on what have they let slide as friends, what have they not been truthful about or come forward with. The only thing that I did not like, and I did not dock points on this, was the ending, because the ending kind of tied everything up in a bow, and this is not a tie up in the bow type of situation. This is a must read. I think that wherever you lie politically, this is a must read because it's got 2 different perspectives, and the racial commentary is phenomenal. So highly recommend. The next book I read was A Fate Inked in Blood. This is by Danielle L. Jensen. I also got this from Book of the Month Club. It was brand new. It came out February 27th. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was a very simple romantasy, but it didn't really hit for me. I actually don't remember too much of it. I don't understand or remember the plot so much, but I didn't hate it. I would not go to book 2, but I do recommend it. Next up, I read Frenemy Fix Up. I also gave this 3 stars. I also don't remember much of this either. I think, okay, I'm looking at my Goodreads. I'm like, why don't I remember this? But it was 240 pages. I guess for me, the biggest issue was that the romance was quick and sudden, and they went from like complete enemies to like passionately in love, so it seemed unrealistic. But because there's only 240 pages, I think there was just a lack of character development in the book altogether. I could also say it was probably like a time for me to take a break because I had been reading a lot. So I did in fact take a break, about a week, and another anticipated read came out, and that was Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. I love Rebecca Searle's writing. She always does books in like a dual timeline, and this book was no different. In this book, we follow a woman who, since she was 8-ish, has had these notes that have a boy's name on it and then a time frame, like 5 weeks, 3 days, 5 months, 2 years, whatever. And that is the expiration date for the relationship. And so she gets one, and there is no expiration date. And so she assumes that this is her soulmate. Now, the person before her that she was dating, they're still very close friends, and you can tell he still really likes her, but he dates, and obviously she's dating, and they're trying to figure out, like, what does it mean? I don't want to give away the ending, but the twist was phenomenal. I ended up giving this 4 stars, and it would have been 5 stars, but there is a part, what is it? There is a part towards the middle that something that happens to our main character that really wasn't necessary. And so they could have taken that whole section out and it would have been fine, but it is a phenomenal book. And the book is so pretty, the cover. I do have it on my Kindle. If they do a paperback, I might get a copy, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous cover. And then the last book I read, I just finished yesterday, and that is The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I was actually on the fence about this book because it had come out a while ago, and I didn't immediately buy it. I actually borrowed it from my library, and shout out to my library for having a recent book because they hardly ever do. This book, I think it's pretty much in the same universe as The Neighbor Favor. However, I did not enjoy The Neighbor Favor. Mostly because the favor in question didn't come to like 30% in the book, and like we're just waiting for something to happen. This book is totally different, and I love this book. So this book follows Violet and what's his name? Xavier. And they were high school sweethearts, and they even managed to like date going into freshman year of college. Xavier is a basketball player. Violet loved fashion, but Xavier gets an injury when he's in college, and he comes back home, and she's still in the local town, and she ends up going to visit him one day, and he abruptly breaks up with her. And so they kind of go their own ways. And then we move forward maybe 10 or 15 years. He's a teacher in their small town, and she's this flourishing stylist to all the most amazing hip hop music stars. And they end up running to each other in Vegas. They kind of do have a one-night stand, and then they, in their partying, had gotten fake married. And so her ex, they had a very public breakup because he was in the business and he ended up dating somebody she was styling for. So there was like this interview that she was doing, and she said she was married. She didn't name Xavier, but she said he's an English teacher. I've known him since high school, like all the things. So everybody assumed it was him. And so it got around their small town, and they had to start playing into this fake marriage. It benefited Xavier because he was looking to become an assistant coach at the college level, but the person hiring him didn't feel like he was settled down enough to take that job, and so he could say he was married, and that helped his case. And then obviously it's a romance, so they do continue to spend time together and get together. But what I really loved about this book was the development of the relationship, and overall just really well written and so different than Neighbor Favor. It's almost like 2 different authors wrote it. I highly recommend this book. It was a little long for my taste. It was 379 pages with a prologue, and then they had like a reading guide, like if you wanted to do a discussion guide as a book club. But it got a little bit long towards the end where they just started throwing more curveballs in, and it wasn't necessary. But so good, and it's making me question whether I like Christina Forrest or not, because maybe I do. So those are all of the books that I read this month. I think it was a really successful month. Today's the 30th. I'm filming this, and I really don't have to read anything, which is great because I love to take a break and just reset my mind and think about April. There's a couple of really great releases coming out right in the beginning of April that I'm excited to get into. But other than that, I'll be doing my normal mood reading. So as always, thanks so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the other content on my channel to see if it's something that you enjoy. If you do, feel free to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. I love to respond to your comments as well. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.